The storm did not begin with thunder, it began with a message. Sophia sat on the edge of her bed, phone in hand, staring at the short line of text on her screen. "I'm 5 minutes away. Are you sure about this?" Her fingers trembled slightly as she typed back, "Yes, come. They need to meet you." Outside, the sky over the small American suburb was the color of steel, clouds thick and heavy, pressing low over the houses and their neat little lawns. The world felt like it was holding its breath. Inside, in the modest 2-story house at the end of the cul-de-sac, the air was heavy with fried chicken, nervous anticipation, and the quiet ticking of an old kitchen clock. Her mother, Elena, moved between the stove and the table, adjusting plates that were already perfectly straight, glancing again and again toward the hallway that led to the front door. "Stop pacing," Elena said softly without looking at her daughter. "You're making me nervous." "I'm making you nervous?" Sophia tried to smile, but her voice came out tight. "You're the one who's been checking the oven door every 30 seconds like it's going to run away." Elena finally turned and looked at her. There was warmth in her eyes, but also a shadow of worry that hadn't left for years. She wiped her hands on a dish towel and stepped closer, brushing a strand of dark hair behind Sophia's ear. "Has just a boy," Elena said. "If you love him, that's enough for me." It was the sentence Sophia had been clinging to for weeks. "Dad?" Sophia asked, her voice quieter now. The silence that followed was louder than any answer. From the living room came the muted sound of the television, and the occasional clink of ice against glass. Her father, Victor, was planted in his usual place on the couch, a half-empty tumbler on the coffee table in front of him, the evening news flickering across his tired face. Elena's smile faded. "Your father," she hesitated. "Your father will be fine. Just stay calm. Don't argue with him. Let him adjust." Adjust. That word had been used for years to explain Victor's moods, his tempers, his dark silences and sudden eruptions. Adjust. As if his anger were some old radio that just needed a little tuning. A car door slammed outside. Sophia's heart jumped to her throat. She moved instinctively toward the window, saw the familiar old sedan pull up to the curb, saw the driver's door open. Daniel stepped out, nervous and handsome in a white button-down shirt that didn't quite fit his shoulders. He looked up at the house as if it were a castle he was about to storm. Elena squeezed Sophia's hand. "Go," she whispered. "Let him in." Sophia opened the front door before Daniel could knock. For a heartbeat they just looked at each other. He could see the fear in her eyes, she could see the determination in his. "You look beautiful," he said quietly. "You look terrified," she whispered back. "Fair," he admitted, giving a small, shaky laugh. "Is your dad inside?" Her smile disappeared. "Please, just be yourself. Be respectful. Try not to provoke him," Daniel finished. "Yeah, I know." They stepped into the hallway together, side by side. The house swallowed them. The sound of the television grew louder, the ticking clock in the kitchen sharper. Elena appeared first, wiping her hands again as if cooking had left some invisible stain. Her face lit up with a practiced, polite smile. "You must be Daniel," she said, extending her hand. "Yes, Mom." He shook it, his grip firm but careful. "Thank you for inviting me. It's good to finally meet you." "Welcome," she said. "We've heard a lot about you." Sophia's cheeks flushed. "Mom, don't worry," Elena said with a soft chuckle. "Only good things. Come, dinner's almost ready." "Victor," she called toward the living room. "They're here." The television volume dropped, then the news anchor's voice cut off entirely. The silence that followed was like someone had pulled the air from the room. Sophia's stomach tightened into a knot. Victor appeared in the doorway between the hallway and the living room. He was a big man, broad shoulders gone a little soft with age but still imposing. His gray-streaked hair was unkempt, and there was that familiar heaviness in his eyes like he was always waking up from a dream. He didn't want to remember. He didn't extend his hand. He didn't smile. "So," Victor said, looking Daniel up and down. "This is him." Sophia swallowed. "Dad, this is Daniel. I know who he is," Victor cut in. Daniel took a small step forward anyway. "Good evening, sir. It's an honor to meet you." "Honor?" Victor snorted, moving past a word like it offended him. "Well, see." Something flickered across Daniel's face, hurt, confusion, but he kept his posture straight. Elena's eyes darted between the two men like a referee before a fight. "Dinner is ready," she said quickly. "Let's sit, please." The dining room was small and simple, the wooden table covered with a white cloth that had seen 100 birthdays, Christmases, and arguments. Plates were set, glasses filled with water. The food smelled comforting and warm, but nobody seemed hungry. They took their seats, Ellen at one end, Victor at the other, Sophia and Daniel side by side along the long edge. The arrangement. The battlefield lines were drawn. So, Daniel, Elena began, forcing brightness into her voice. Sophia tells us you're studying engineering. Yes, Mom, he said. Mechanical engineering. I'm in my last year. Mechanical, Victor repeated, stabbing a piece of chicken with unnecessary force. So you fix things? In a way, Daniel said. Design, build, improve. Improve, Victor muttered. Everybody wants to improve something. Sophia pretended not to hear the sarcasm. Has really talented, Dad. He helped design a prototype for. I wasn't talking to you, Victor snapped, his eyes suddenly sharp on her. The knife in his hand gleamed under the warm light above the table. The room chilled. Daniel glanced at Sophia, then back at Victor. Well, Daniel said carefully, I tried to work hard, sir. I care about my future. Victor took a slow sip of water, his gaze never leaving the young man's face. And your future, he said, involves my daughter. Daniel didn't look away. Yes, sir, I love her. The words landed in the room like a dropped glass. Elena shifted in her seat, her fingers tightening round her fore. Sophia's heart pounded in her ears. She had wanted him to say it, proud of that word, that courage. But now, under her father's stare, it felt dangerous, exposed. You love her, Victor said slowly. You've known her for what, a year, and you think you know what that means. I know how I feel, Daniel replied, his voice still calm but softer now. And I know I want to take care of her. I want to build a life with her. Victor leaned back, studying him like an enemy. A life, he repeated. And where will this life be? In that tiny apartment you share with two friends. On your student loans? Your part-time job at that garage. Dad, stop, Sophia whispered. Victor's eyes flashed. Did I ask you, Sophia? She stared at her plate, shame burning in her cheeks. Elena reached out under the table and squeezed her hand. We're working, Daniel said quietly. We're saving. When I graduate, I already have an offer. It's not perfect, but it's not enough, Victor cut in. You think you can replace what I've given her? This house, this stability. You think you can love her more than I do. It's not a competition, Daniel said. I don't want to replace you. I want to be part of her life. With her family. Her family, Victor said, a bitter chuckle escaping his lips. Do you even understand what family is? For a moment, Daniel hesitated. Then he said, very softly, I know family isn't about control and fear. Silence. The words were gentle, but they hit like a slap. Victor's jaw tightened. A vein in his neck pulsed. The knife in his hand scraped slowly against the plate. What did you say? Victor asked. Dad, please, Sophia said, her voice shaking. He doesn't mean. I meant, Daniel said carefully, that I want Sophia to be happy, to feel safe, to be able to make her own choices. Victor stood up so fast his chair scraped loudly against the floor. Everyone flinched at the sound. So now I'm the monster, Victor said, his voice lowering, thickening. I'm the danger, right? That's what you think. Elena rose halfway from her seat. Victor, sit down, please. You're misunderstanding. Am I? He looked at Sophia, his eyes wild and glassy. Is that what you tell him? That I'm a monster? That you're not safe here? Sophia's lip trembled. Dad, I never said. Answer me, he roared, slamming his fist on the table so hard the glasses rattled. Water spilled, a fork clattered to the floor. The house seemed to flinch. Daniel stood up now too, hands raised slightly. Sir, please, we're not your enemies. He took a small step around the table, as if wanting to put himself between Victor and Sophia without quite daring to. Victor watched that movement, something ugly and old tightening inside him. In my house, Victor said slowly, you do not tell me how to treat my daughter. You do not tell me what family is. You are nothing here. Victor, Elena said, her voice shaking. Enough. You're scaring them. Victor turned on her. Scaring them? I am protecting my daughter. From him, from his empty promises. Sophia finally spoke louder now. They're not empty, she said, her voice cracking. I love him, Dad, and am going to be with him. Whether you like it or not, The words slipped out before she could stop them. They hung in the air like a confession, a rebellion, a final line crossed. Victor stared at her as if had been shot. His face went pale, then flushed a deep, dangerous red. "Say that again," he whispered. Sophia swallowed hard. She felt Daniel's eyes on her, Elena's silent plea, the weight of the moment crushing her chest. But something in her refused to bend. "I love him," she said, quieter but clearer, "and I am going to be with him." For a fraction of a second, the room froze. Then Victor moved. It happened faster than anyone expected. He stepped around the table, his movements clumsy and yet terrifyingly focused. Daniel put himself in his path without thinking, one arm instinctively reaching back to shield Sophia. "Sir, calm down," Daniel pleaded. "Please. We can talk." He never finished the sentence. Victor's fist came out of nowhere, a brutal, heavy blow that connected with Daniel's cheekbone with a sickening crack. The world tilted. Daniel's body stumbled backward, hit the edge of the table, then the floor, knocking over a chair as he fell. His head struck the hardwood with a dull thud. "Daniel!" Sophia screamed. He didn't move. His eyes rolled back, his body going limp, like someone had pulled the plug on his consciousness. Sophia dropped to her knees beside him, her hands shaking as she tried to lift his head, to make him respond. "Daniel, wake up," she sobbed. "Please, wake up." Elena gasped, frozen for a moment, then reached for her phone with trembling fingers. "Victor, what have you done?" she whispered. But Victor wasn't looking at Daniel. He was looking at his daughter. In her eyes, he finally saw it clearly. Fear. Not the small, childish fear of a strict parent, but something deeper. A terror that had roots. "You chose him over me," Victor said, his voice breaking. "Over your own father." Sophia looked up, tears streaming down her face. "You did this," she whispered. "Not him, you. Look at what you've done." Those words broke something inside him. He lunged forward, grabbing her by the shoulders, shaking her so hard her teeth clacked together. "Don't you talk to me like that," he shouted. "I gave you everything. I kept this house. I worked. I suffered. And this is how you repay me. With disrespect? With betrayal? Let her go." Elena screamed, rushing forward. She tried to pry his hands off their daughter, but Victor shoved her aside. Elena stumbled against the wall, her phone flying from her hand, skittering across the floor. Sophia tried to wrench herself free. "Dad, you're hurting me." His hand flew before he could stop it. A backhanded slap, sharp and vicious, split the air. Her head snapped to the side. Pain exploded along her cheek, bright and hot. The room blurred. She tasted blood. Something in her screamed, not just from the pain but from the realization. This was no longer anger and no longer a father yelling. This was violence. Real and undeniable. Victor hit her again. Time lost its shape. There was just the impact, the sound of Elena's screams, the distant, horrifying silence from Daniel on the floor. Sophia fell, her hands scraping along the hardwood, her hair falling over her eyes. A boot connected with her side. She cried out, "Victor, stop." Elena sobbed, throwing herself between them. "You're going to kill her. Stop." She grabbed his arm, clinging to it with all her strength. For a moment, Victor fought her grip, his breath coming in ragged, animal bursts. Then he suddenly seemed to see her, really see her tear-streaked face, the terror, the bruises already blooming on his daughter's skin. He staggered back, breathing hard, staring at his own hands like they belonged to someone else. "What?" he whispered. "What did I?" Sophia curled around herself on the floor, one hand pressed to her face, the other reaching blindly for Daniel's unmoving form. Her fingers brushed his wrist. His pulse was there, faint but present. Elena scrambled for the phone, fingers slipping on the screen as she dialed with shaking hands. 911. "What is your emergency?" "My husband," she choked out. He hit my daughter, he hit her boyfriend, there's blood, has unconscious, please, please. Come quickly." Victor backed toward the living room, his chest heaving, eyes wild. "I didn't mean to," he whispered. I was just protecting her. But the words sounded weak even to him. The sirens came sooner than Sophia expected, their wail cutting through the heavy silence of the neighborhood. Red and blue lights flashed through the front windows like an accusing heartbeat. The neighbors peeked through their curtains. Their quiet street suddenly turned into a scene from a bad dream. Two police officers rushed inside, followed by paramedics with a stretcher. They saw Daniel first, still unconscious on the floor and moved toward him with practiced speed. "Sir, can you hear me?" one paramedic said, checking his vitals. Sophia tried to stand, but her legs shook violently. One officer, a woman with kind eyes, gently guided her to a chair. "Miss, are you hurt?" she asked. Sophia nodded, trying to wipe the blood from her lip with the back of her hand. "I'm fine," she lied. "Please, help him. Help Daniel." The second officer approached Victor, who stood near the doorway, his hands shaking, his eyes unfocused. "Sir, I'm going to need you to step outside," the officer said. "We're going to ask you some questions." Victor looked at him as if he were speaking another language. "I didn't mean to hurt her," he muttered. "She's my daughter. I was protecting her. You don't understand. You don't." The officer gently but firmly took his arm. "Sir, step outside now." As they led him away, Victor looked back at Sophia. For a brief moment, their eyes met. In his gaze there was confusion, desperation, and something else, something broken that had been there long before tonight. Elena knelt beside her daughter, cupping her face carefully, avoiding the swelling cheek, the bruises already rising beneath the skin. "My baby," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I should have stopped him sooner. I should have." "It's not your fault," Sophia said hollowly. But the words felt empty. Everything felt empty. They took Daniel to the hospital in the back of the ambulance. Sophia wanted to go with him, but the paramedics insisted on checking her first, documenting her injuries. One of the officers photographed the bruises, the broken glass, the overturned chairs. Evidence, they called it. Proof. Ours blurred together in the harsh white light of the emergency room. Doctors and nurses moved around them like ghosts in scrub green. Daniel eventually woke up, confused and groggy, his head bandaged, his face swollen. "What happened?" he asked weakly when he saw Sophia standing beside his bed. She tried to smile, but her lip hurt. "My father," she whispered. "You stood in front of me." He studied her face, the purple shadow blooming along her cheekbone, the split lip, the tremble in her hands. His eyes filled with something that might have been guilt, or fear, or both. "I'm so sorry," he said. "You have nothing to be sorry for," she replied. But he looked away. Later, when the doctors had finished, when the questions from the officers were done, when Elena had fallen asleep in a plastic chair in the corner of the hospital room from sheer emotional exhaustion, Daniel asked Sophia if they could talk alone. They stepped into a quiet corridor, where the fluorescent lights buzzed softly and the world smelled faintly of antiseptic and fatigue. Sophia wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly cold. "Daniel?" she asked. "What is it?" He took a breath that seemed to hurt. "Your father," he began, then stopped, searching for the right words. "The police, they told us a bit. They said this isn't the first time has had episodes." She nodded slowly. "Has always been unstable, but never like this. Not with me. Not like tonight. They said has being evaluated," Daniel went on. "That he might have serious mental health issues. That he needs treatment." Sophia stared at the floor. "He needs help," she said quietly. "But what he did, I don't know if I can ever forgive that." Daniel leaned against the wall, closing his eyes for a moment. "Sophia," he said, his voice breaking on her name. "I need to be honest with you." Her stomach clenched. "Okay. I love you," he said. "You know I do." "I know," she whispered. But tonight he shook his head, opening his eyes again. They were filled with something she had never seen there before. Terror. "Tonight, I realized I can't do this. I can't live like this. I can't build a life always waiting for the next explosion, the next time he loses control." She felt the floor tilt beneath her. "He won't be there forever," she said quickly, desperately. "They're taking him away. Mama is going to divorce him. We can start over. Just us. We can." "It's not just about him," Daniel said, his voice thick. "It's about what he did. About coming into your home and being knocked out on the floor because I dared to love you. I saw you on the ground, Sophia. I saw your blood. I heard you scream. I don't know if he'll ever unsee that." Her hands shook. She pressed them together to stop them. "Are you saying this is my fault?" "No," he said immediately. "Never. This is not your fault. It's his, and his illness, and all the things he never faced." He swallowed. "But I'm not strong enough for this. I wish I were. God, I wish I were." The words she had feared without knowing she feared them finally took shape. "You're leaving," she whispered. He took a shuddering breath. "I'm not going to move in with you like we planned," he said. "I'm not ready to tie my life to this kind of chaos. I'm scared, Sophia. I'm scared that one day he'll come back or that his shadow will always be there between us." Tears blurred her vision. "So that's it. After everything, you just walk away." He flinched but didn't deny it. "Maybe someday, when things are different, I don't know. But right now, I can't. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." She stared at him, seeing the same boy who had held her hand through exams, who had stayed up late listening to her dreams, who had promised her a small apartment with plants in the window and music playing in the kitchen. Now he looked like a stranger wearing his face. "I thought love meant staying," she said hoarsely. "Sometimes," he whispered, "love means knowing your limits, and I have reached mine." He reached out as if to touch her, then let his hand fall. "Take care of yourself," he said. "Please. Don't let this destroy you." Then he turned and walked down the corridor, each step echoing like a closing door. Sophia watched him go until he turned the corner and disappeared. Part of her wanted to run after him, to scream, to beg. Another part of her just stood there, numb. The pain in her cheek nothing compared to the ache spreading slowly through her chest. He was gone. Her father was in a locked ward, under observation. Doctors using words like psychotic break and untreated condition and long-term instability. Her mother filed for divorce soon after, her hands shaking as she signed the papers but her eyes finally clear for the first time in years. And Sophia was left with the aftermath. The bruises faded, the cut on her lip healed. But one line just below her cheekbone remained a faint, pale scar that caught the light in certain angles. A reminder, not just of the night her father lost control, but of everything that was shattered in a single, violent evening. Her trust, her certainty, her vision of the future. Years passed. She moved out, found her own place, built a life that was painfully quiet at first, then slowly filled with new routines, new friends, new dreams. She went to therapy, sat in a soft chair week after week, learning how to say the words she had never allowed herself to say aloud. "He hurt me. He scared me. I didn't deserve it." Sometimes she visited her father in the facility where he now lived. Some days he seemed almost like his old self, cracking awkward jokes, asking about her work. Other days he stared past her, lost in a fog only he could see. "I never wanted to be that man," he told her once, his eyes wet. "The one who hates. The one you're afraid of. Something broke in me, Sophie. I don't know when. I'm sorry. I am so sorry." She believed he was sorry, but apology, she had learned, doesn't erase scars. Her mother, free at last from the constant tension, slowly rediscovered her own strength. She changed her hair, took a new job, started laughing again, real, full laughter that filled rooms instead of hiding in corners. Sometimes, Elena said one evening as they sat together on Sophia's small balcony, watching the sunset stain the sky orange and pink, "The people who say they are protecting us are the ones who hurt us the most, and sometimes the worst thing parents can do is believe they own their children's lives." Sophia traced the faint scar on her cheek with one fingertip. "He said he was protecting me," she murmured. "From love. From the wrong man. And he lost you because of it," Elena replied softly. Sophia stared out at the fading light. She thought of Daniel sometimes, not with the burning intensity of fresh heartbreak, but with a quiet sadness. She understood his fear now. Trauma did not disappear just because someone wanted to be brave. Maybe, in another life, things would have been different. Maybe her father would have gotten help earlier. Maybe Daniel would have stayed. Maybe the house would have been just a house, not a battlefield. But this was the life she had. She had learned to live with the scar, to accept that some stories don't end with neat reconciliations, with everyone forgiven and smiling around a new dinner table. Some stories end with distance, with paperwork, with therapy appointments and the slow rebuilding of trust in the world. One day, long after the storm had passed, a friend asked her, half-jokingly, if she would ever bring a future boyfriend home to meet her parents. Sophia smiled faintly, her fingers unconsciously rising to her cheek. "Maybe," she said, "but only when I'm sure the house is safe." Her friend laughed, not understanding the weight behind the words. Later that night, as she lay in bed, listening to the quiet hum of the city beyond her window, Sophia thought about everything that had happened and everything she had survived. She thought about love and fear and the fine line between protection and control. If she could speak to every parent in the world, she knew what she would say. Love your children, guide them, warn them when you see danger, but do not crush their choices to feed your own fears. Do not turn your love into chains, because once you raise your hand not to shield them from the world, but to strike the life they are trying to build, you lose the right to call it protection. And one day, when the dust settles and the scars remain, they may remember you not as the one who kept them safe but as the one who broke them. Don't let your love become violence. Don't let your fear destroy their future. And above all, don't shove your nose so deep into your children's lives that you suffocate them. They are not extensions of you. They are their own stories. Let them live.